Hi, I'm Alex Robson, and this is a short screencast to demonstrate the Symbiote Daemon library, which wraps the open source project Top Shelf. I'd like to thank Drew Sellers and Chris Patterson for Top Shelf, and Kevin Miller for his blog series on how to use Top Shelf. So let's get started. We're just going to use a console application as our Windows service host. One gotcha to be aware of. In .NET 4.0, the default target framework is actually the 4 client profile, and we want the full-blown .NET Framework 4.0. Then just add your references to Symbiote Core, Symbiote Daemon, and Top Shelf. Now, Symbiote Core is always required for the Symbiote framework regardless of the other libraries that you use. Symbiote Daemon is actually a wrapper that sits on top of Top Shelf to hopefully provide a cleaner, faster experience in configuring your Windows service. Now, I'm using ReSharper, so you'll notice that I use a lot of the shortcut keys and context menus, and also use namespace using completion. So the way we always get started in Symbiote is with a call to assimilate. It has a static function on it called core, and that actually begins the configuration experience that Symbiote provides. Now, so all the libraries in Symbiote extend this actual call so that you'll just see a series of extension methods as you add more and more Symbiote libraries. And all of the Symbiote libraries provide a function that accepts either a action or function delegate so that you can fluently configure that library. And the reason for that choice is that I feel that it's a lot more discoverable that you can use the IntelliSense to actually figure out what it is you need to do to use that library. In the case of Daemon, there are 4 calls that we always have to make in order to provide all the information required to start our Windows service. And that's providing the arguments from the command line, the name of the service, the display name of the service, and a short description. And that's actually all that's required to configure Daemon. Once all the configuration, the entire assimilate stack is complete, you've configured all the Symbiote libraries, you can make a call to run Daemon, and that's what actually invokes Top Shelf and hosts all the services that are provided as a part of this assembly. So, since I haven't actually defined any services yet, if I run this, I'm going to see a blank screen. So let's actually provide a service. And we're going to do the most simple service possible. All services in the Daemon project require you to implement iDaemon, which only has 2 methods, start and stop. So let's write a message to the console on both start and stop. So now I run this, and you'll see hi, and then when I stop the service, bye gets printed, but it happens so fast it's kind of hard to catch. So let's sleep right after that call, and you'll be able to see it better. So there's hi, I stop the service, and we see bye. All right. So there you have it. That's the simplest service. Daemon isn't limited to hosting 1 service per Windows service. I know that sounds a little confusing, but let's go ahead and add another service class, and we'll make this do something a little bit interesting. But first you have to know a little bit about Top Shelf. Top Shelf provides a control structure called iServiceCoordinator, which lets you take programmatic control over the service. The other thing you need to know about Symbiote is that it uses structure map for all its dependency injection. And Symbiote is fairly faithful in using the dependency injection pattern for all internal and external dependencies, which means that when you're creating your classes, you can take dependencies on things that that Symbiote is using. In this case, the service coordinator will let us actually stop the service programmatically. Let's go ahead and add a timer that we'll use to count down. And let's give it 10 seconds. So we'll create our constructor, taking a dependency on iService coordinator. And we need to define our start and stop, in which we will start and stop the timer. And we'll be good citizens, we'll even dispose the timer. How about that? So we need to instantiate it in the constructor, and we'll use the interval of 1,000 milliseconds. And then we need to handle the elapsed event. Every time a second passes, we'll check the remaining time. If it's less than or equal to 0, we'll actually shut the service down by means of the coordinator. Otherwise, let's just tell the user how much time's left. All right, so what we should expect to see here is both services will be hosted, which means we'll see hi, then we'll see the countdown start, and at the end of the countdown, the service coordinator will stop, will get called, and then we should see bye. So let's run it. There's the countdown. Now, hopefully what this demonstrates is that you have a lot of control over how you want to actually design your Windows service. And a lot of things get handled for you, like the dependencies, and also take note that you didn't actually have to tell Daemon about these two services. It actually uses structure map to scan the calling assembly and find all implementations of iDaemon and then host those in Top Shelf. So you might be thinking, what happens if I have multiple services defined in another assembly or in the actual console app, but I don't necessarily want to run them all? There's an include daemon call that allows you to be very specific in terms of what's going to be hosted. So you'll notice if I run this now, the only thing that gets hosted is service 1. We don't actually see the countdown start. And I can change that to only host service 2. Whoops. Right, so let's run that. And notice the countdown starts, but we won't wait for that to finish. So there you have it. That's a really quick and simple demonstration of how Daemon allows you to create Windows services that actually host your service classes for you. Now, if you have questions, you can email me at asrobson@gmail.com. I also recommend, if you're interested in Symbiote, that you keep an eye on the blog and the wiki, and you can even follow me on Twitter. So thanks very much for your time.